Bitcoin is going up forever. Or if not forever, at least as far into the future as we possibly could articulate or see. And here's why. I'm recording this in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona. Amazing rivers, incredible bridges and sculptures, amazing high-rises and buildings all around me, neighborhoods, suburbia, beautiful pathways. This once was all a desert. And this actually is really bullish for Bitcoin. And see, when I try to explain Bitcoin to people from first principles, they have trouble. They would rather think of it in terms of fiat currency or in terms of political currency. And it's like, okay, Luke, does that mean it's going to 100,000 or 100 million or what? Like, what am I talking about? I'm going to try to break down those first principles here and explain why Bitcoin is priceless in today's world. See, 500 years ago, this was nothing. This was simply desert. Land of scorpions, coyotes, Native Americans, the native people that lived here, and now it's a civilization like this. Of course, the natives were a civilization too, but this is a civilization far and away technologically indescribable, both to the natives and the colonists, even though the colonists had vastly superior technology, and frankly, that's why they won out. It's amazing. It's absolutely beautiful. And this all comes down to two things: time, number one, and energy, number two. Everything is constrained by time and energy. Okay, you can have a lot of energy, but if you don't have a lot of time, you're limited. And you can have a lot of time, but if you don't have a lot of energy, you can't get a lot done. And so we're able to build this amazing civilization with these buildings and 5 million people living in this city because of energy and because of time and because we channel both of these things better and better as a function of time. We channel energy better over a function of time. And just for context, let's look at where we've come from. A few thousand years ago, 5 million people was a massive percentage of the world's population, and it is still a large percentage. 1 in 66 Americans lives here in this city of Phoenix, Arizona. 5 out of 7 people that live in the state of Arizona live in this city. So this is a big city, don't get me wrong. But compared to the past, 5 million is a lot of people. At one point in history, there were not even 5 million people in the world, and yet they're all here now, living in what was formerly an uninhabited desert, an uninhabitable, unsurvivable desert. In fact, by many estimates, people say that if we were if the world population was still in a hunter-gatherer era, that the max capacity of the global population would be somewhere between 10 to 20 million human beings, because we would force animals to extinction. So at one point in our past, in the pathway backwards in history, we had a max cap of double the size of Phoenix. And now here we are, and we're living much more prosperous lives than our hunter-gatherers were. And this is my whole point of how we have less in common with the future than the past. Let's take this principle, think from today where we're standing, and look backwards in time. We have less in common, or the person of 100 years ago has less in common with us than they did with someone all the way back there. Because this timeline, this pathway of time, it's an exponential function, the progress of technology, and the amount of energy we're able to steward and channel. So for example, at no point in the past have we been able to grow as much grass as we've been able to grow in a desert here. The vast majority of time, the vast majority of humans that lived in the vast majority of time of the human race have not had access to clean, drinkable, safe water. And yet here I am, filming on a supercomputer, and computers weren't even a concept 100 years ago, with this amazing fountain just spewing out clean, fresh drinking water. This is how much prosperity we have. We have so much prosperity in the 21st century that we can take water, clean drinking water, and funnel it into the middle of a desert where we have a city population greater than the former size of the world or the former possible capacity of multiple continents, and we can just funnel water in here just for fun. And I'm the only person right here enjoying this. And of course we have this big beautiful river over here. Of course this is channeled, again channeling energy. This is channeled from a different river here, but or a natural river. We turn it into a man-made river. But anyway, the point being is that as a function of time, as we have more humans, as we have more abundance, we are creating more and more opportunities, more and more prosperity for more and more human beings. And what does this have to do with Bitcoin? Well, it has a lot to do with Bitcoin. See, what is Bitcoin's utility? What is Bitcoin's use case? What is Bitcoin's advantage? The beauty and the advantage of Bitcoin is that it is constrained over time and in energy. There's a 21 million supply cap. There's only 21 million Bitcoins that could ever be done. You can't print new energy out of nothing. This reflects this natural limitation of energy that we have in our world. Likewise, there's a limitation of time. With a difficulty adjustment and a block only every 10 minutes or so and 210,000 blocks between halvings, there's a limitation of time. You can't mine new blocks perpetually faster and faster as we have a perpetual increasing amount of energy. Bitcoin in this way is a kind of clock. It's why it's called the block clock, or it's why it's called time chain. In many ways, Bitcoin is limited in time as well as limiting transaction fees. See, all these things actually may be perceived as negatives by people. The fact that there's a limited number of Bitcoins, or the fact that it's constrained in time to this certain degree algorithmically, but it's really a benefit. It constrains us in both of these ways so that we can then approach and race towards those exponentials in the real world. And that is what's important to understand with Bitcoin. And that's what most people don't understand about Bitcoin or money in general. You don't actually want the money. You want the things that can buy you. You don't want the numbers in your bank account. You want the prosperity that those numbers can buy you, and all the things that all the luxuries of the modern world. And so because Bitcoin does this, because Bitcoin has these constraints and the abstract concept that we call money, that enables us, that incentivizes us to chase these further prosperity gains in society. This is what's often called that if you have infinite money, you are incentivized to have scarcer and scarcer assets. But if you have scarce money, then you're incentivized to have more and more, infinitely more assets. And this is the world we live in today, unfortunately. I'm filming this right here on this timeline of human history in the early 21st century. I'm filming this at a time where we have infinite money. We can just print more and more currency units, we can have more and more money, and therefore we are incentivized to have less and less assets. We're incentivized to have a more and more scarce world. We have to preserve our purchasing power in some capacity. We have to preserve our energy today for the future in time to some capacity. And so if we have infinite number of currency units, we are going to artificially constrain the amount of housing that we are going to produce. We are going to artificially constrain the amount of food that is out there in the system. We are going to artificially constrain the amount of fresh water that there is in the world. And see, this is what's hard to explain to people that are new to Bitcoin. This is not conspiracy theories. This is not some global elite pulling strings. This is simple, collective, complex, emergent behavior of human societies that we are all incentivized subconsciously from the top and from the bottom at every facet of society, every layer of society, every place in the world. We have this indirect, subtle tension where on one hand we are incentivized to produce more prosperity and produce more wealth because it brings a better quality of living for us. But then simultaneously, we have this other incentive to actually not produce too much prosperity because we need some form to preserve that purchasing power. And if water, if real estate, if food, if land and housing and if everything in the world, energy, aka if energy, if we can't store it in the money, we have to have some way to store it. And if we can't do it in the money, we will find a way to make these more scarce. And that's the battle, that's the tension that we're feeling today. People say that the world feels so much different than it used to. The world's not like it used to be. And this is why. It's because this tension is really coming to a head. Unfortunately, in historical examples, it has bubbled over in revolutions and wars and conflicts. And I hope and pray that's not where we end up. But it seems that on our current trajectory, that's the direction we're heading. And that's why Bitcoin's so important. Because it enables us to solve this tension without the need for violence. This tension between the desire to create more prosperity so that we have more prosperous lives, and this desire to have artificial scarcity so that we can preserve our purchasing power in the future. Bitcoin solves this tension. It cuts right in the middle of it without the need of violence, without the need of centralization, and without the need of coercion. It's a beautiful day. It's absolutely beautiful. And again, comparing this to the mountains I was hiking on earlier today and then seeing out here this desert life, it's just amazing how much we've been able to do. And so I'm optimistic and I'm hopeful that in the future we'll be able to do only more and more things, more and more amazing prosperity. The same way that we have less in common, or the person 100 years ago has less in common with us today than they did with way back at the beginnings of modern human history. It's the same thing for the future. Like I said earlier in the video, 5 out of 7 people in Arizona, 5 out of 7 people, the vast majority of people in Arizona live in Phoenix and a couple other cities, a handful of other cities. It's like, okay, the rest of Arizona is desert. Like, we've turned this desert into this paradise that by any metric of the former, this paradise is far more luxurious than the Roman emperors and the dictators of the past could ever have, and yet that's the average standard of living today. It's like we, with our primitive 21st century technology, have turned this much desert into this much prosperity. What's going to happen in 50 years, or 100 years, or 200 years, when we have the rest of Arizona to colonize, where we can turn the entire state away from rocks and from dead rocks and from barren plants and a lack of life and a lack of abundance, both for humans and the animals. And now if we are able to do this, it's absolutely amazing and it's absolutely beautiful, both what we've been able to accomplish and what we're going to be able to accomplish in the future. And so, wrapping up here, talking about Bitcoin being so bullish in the future, what does that mean for Bitcoin's price? Well, here's what that means. That means that Bitcoin, if we're going to try to articulate what the future value of Bitcoin is, it is inherently something that you cannot do. In the same way that if you and I were standing here right in this very spot 500 years ago, and I was to say to you, there is going to be so much prosperity, there are going to be tens of thousands of pipes with water, funneling fresh water, fresher and cleaner than you've ever had in your life, just here in the middle of the desert. Why? For no reason. Just because it's pretty and just because we like it. And we're going to build buildings taller than you've ever seen in your life. And we're going to record this on phones better and smarter than any computers in human history. And I don't even know how to explain a computer to you, okay? If you're going to try to explain the technologies and the ways of channeling energy in the future to someone in the past, they are inherently going to have a tremendously difficult time understanding what on earth you're talking about. And so, yeah, I can say Bitcoin's going to $10 million. I could say it's going to $100 million. I can say that Bitcoin is going to $47.5 million or $50 million or whatever. I could give you all those specific numbers, but at the end of the day, they all fall short. Because if you're going to try to price colonizing the rest of Arizona, if you're going to try to price having a human population in the future far greater than whatever we have today, 8 billion or so, if you're going to try to explain these things, you're not going to understand it. So yeah, I could tell you where Bitcoin's going. It's going up indefinitely. It's going up perpetually. As long as the timeline of humanity continues, as long as we have a brighter future, and as long as there's more people in the future that are able to channel more energy for a higher standard of living, as long as that's the case, and as long as Bitcoin remains secure, and as long as it remains the longest proof of work time chain, the longest proof of work blockchain, then as long as it's decentralized, then it's going to continue to survive, as far as I can see, as far into the future as I can possibly see. And so therefore, all of that prosperity is going to go into Bitcoin. And so here's a funny thought experiment. At the time of recording, there's less than 2 million Bitcoins on exchanges. There's 5 million people here in Phoenix, okay? Less than 40% of the people in Phoenix could buy 1 Bitcoin. Think about that. Now, obviously, I've got a lot of Bitcoin swag on. I've got these super awesome orange glasses, but I am wearing an orange pill hat as well as an orange pill shirt. Because they are helping make this video possible. I love putting out free content, free Bitcoin education, trying to help people reframe their mind from the current world to the future world and all that, but the reality is it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And apps like the Orange Pill app and sponsors are really helpful in helping me be able to do that. So, or Orange Pill app, what they do is they help people, perhaps very likely like yourself, that are into Bitcoin, into thinking about these kind of future things, meet each other. See, we can go on Twitter, we can go on YouTube, we can go on that, but frankly, the most valuable relationships and the most valuable insights, for that matter, I have had in in-person conversations. I meet up with people all the time when I go and travel. I message people on the Orange Pill app, or they message me. We try to connect with each other and communicate so that we can meet up, hang out, do activities, start meetups around the topics or whatever topics we want. And I think that's really important, because if we're right in which Bitcoin takes off, it's going to be increasingly important that you have a network of friends and community and advisors, people to help you along the way in education. So if you're looking for a way to connect with those people and a way to do that safely and cost effectively, it's very reasonable cost, then Orange Pill app is probably a really good spot for you to check out. So again, that's the Orange Pill app. You'll see their logo on iOS or Android, or they've got great merch too if you want some of that. So anyway, that's regarding the sponsor of the Orange Pill app. And then when I'm not making videos and talking about the sponsors of those videos, what I do is I help people prepare for that future world. I help people prepare for that mindset. And I do that by providing multi-sig collaborative custody solutions at the Bitcoin Advisor. Now, what does the Bitcoin Advisor do? What we do is we help people understand the pros and cons and trade-offs of every custody solution, ranging from the ETF to single sig, multi-sig. Obviously, we specialize in multi-sig products and a collaborative custody setup to protect our clients both from internal and external threats. But we do our absolute best to make sure that we're advancing Bitcoin education, that we're encouraging people to do the options and the ideas that are most secure for them in the future, in the present and for the future, for their future generations. And so if you've heard about multi-sig, if you think you might want multi-sig, if you think you might want an estate plan for your Bitcoin holdings and for your Bitcoin stack, or you just have Bitcoin on exchanges, please get them off exchanges. All the time I help clients get their Bitcoin off exchanges. So if you or someone you know and love and care about has coins on exchanges, I am more than happy to help them. There's a free consultation link down in the description below. Please, let's run these exchanges dry. Let's get the coins off exchanges. It's one of the most satisfying things about my work. Helping people, help them achieve a greater peace of mind, helping them have an estate plan so that if they get hit by bust, they have a plan for their children and for their future generations, and also getting those coins off of exchanges. And I will say that we are getting a lot of coins off exchanges. And you know anything about me, about my videos, and about the number of coins on exchanges, you know there's not a lot of coins left. So I highly encourage you, please take self-custody. Get your coins off exchanges. Do not wait. Those massive green candles will come, and when they come, everyone that hasn't gotten their coins off exchanges will lose them. So please, whether you use Bitcoin Advisor or not, get your coins off exchanges. And then, as you get into that process, or if you need someone to handhold you through that process, the Bitcoin Advisor is here to help you consider the possibilities of your multi-sig solutions. Certain links in the description for you, anyone you care about. You can send them, you can talk to me, and we can get that figured out for you. Now, one final point I'll say for finishing up the video here is that after I filmed the bulk of this video, I went and I just ate at a Japanese restaurant to get some sushi, because I love sushi. It's happy hour. I'm like, why not? I could get a whole bunch of sushi for less than 20 bucks, or you know, an hour's worth of work. And I was just thinking, as I was sitting there, one of my sushi rolls had this little flame in the middle of it. It was so funny because it wasn't expected. It wasn't written on the menu. Complete surprise. I was just like, wow, that's the whole point I've been talking about this whole video that I just recorded, that you just watched, is that at one point humans didn't have fire. We didn't know how to use fire. You know, and the unique and exotic kinds of fish that are served there, it's like, wow, we have a plate here made on ceramic, you know, which is a completely foreign material for people from the distant past, using fire, you know, just purely for decoration. You know, there's no point in it, but it's just fun to think about. And I was also editing some videos over lunch too, so it's just, we live in an amazing time where we can look back and see all the change that has occurred, that we can go to some restaurant, that we can look up on our smart magic internet computer that can tell us the reviews of this place and the phone number and the address and give us directions and talk us through how to get there, that we can get there and sit down and begin editing videos we recorded on that same exact device at our table on a different device, and with all the magic there, you know, with fresh water and sushi made at extremely low cost, sourcing fish all over the world. And I'm not even that rich. You know, I'm 24-year-old. I'm making Orange Pill app ads in these videos, and obviously we all love the Orange Pill app guys. You know, point being that I'm not even like an upper class person, yet even today I get to experience the luxury of energy and prosperity that people 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, and many thousands of years ago could not have possibly fathomed. So think about Bitcoin in this context of energy and constrained time. I highly encourage you, if you want to meet fellow Bitcoiners, please consider the Orange Pill app, get their merch, you know, sign up, do all that. And then if you want to figure out a multi-sig solution, the Bitcoin Advisor could be the place for you. I'm happy to talk to you there. So thanks.